this is my review of Death Note. Okay, so in this episode, now that the Kira Task Force knows that Higuchi more or less is the third Kira, they begin to make preparations to catch him. So immediately following Misa's reveal that she got Higuchi to confess, L begins to work through how they can actually catch Higuchi, since they realize that now they will now have irrefutable evidence that Higuchi is Kira. But they also realize that there's there's also another bigger problem that L reveals later. Meanwhile, Light talks to Misa about what she actually did, and excluding the part about Rem, she reveals basically everything that she did up to that point to get Higuchi to confess. And Light is very understandably upset by what she's done, pointing out that it was a dumb mistake to make. But in case with that idea in mind, L actually calls up Weddy and asks her to install wiretaps and security cameras inside of Higuchi's house. But Weddy reveals that she's already tried that and that there's a bit of a problem. Higuchi, several of the members of the Yotsuba group, with Higuchi in particular, have installed high-tech security systems, and Higuchi in particular is especially hard to infiltrate since his house has a built-in dampening room that disrupts all electronic communications, so they actually can't install any wiretaps in there. So, and realizing that wiretapping his house is a no-go, L instead has Weddy install wiretaps and cameras inside all of his cars that he owns, and he owns like 6 of them, which is a bit excessive. But then again, Higuchi is the kind of guy who's obsessed with money, so it makes a little bit of sense that he would have like 6 cars. But in case, L thanks Weddy for her services and hangs up. At which point he posits his theory to Light and Misa. He asks them if they have any memories of killing anybody, and they both say no. At which point Light posits his theory. What he believes is that at one point Light and Misa were Kira, which is indeed true. But at some point they passed on their abilities to somebody else, and wonders how would they have passed their abilities on to somebody else, pointing out that if it was indeed another party, that they would have died basically. If it was another party, they wouldn't have waited a week to transfer the powers and would have killed them long ago. So, and Light concedes that if he was Kira and had given up his powers, it would have been from his own will. And based on that, L concludes that Higuchi would most likely give up his powers if he were cornered. So L quickly realizes that he needs to make a situation in which Higuchi can't give up his powers and pass them on to somebody else. So what he does is he actually formulates a plan. Their plan is to call up Namikawa and use their connections at Sakura TV to stage an interview with somebody who both A, knows about the meetings, and B, would know the identity of Kira, and somebody that Higuchi thinks he can kill. And as it turns out, Matsura happens to be the only person that fits that description, and Matsura later agrees to go along with this plan. So it's basically going to go off without a hitch. But at least on the department's part, Matsura agrees to go along with their plan, and sure enough, they reveal the rest of the plan. With Matsura is going to appear on Sakura TV. He's going to have a piece of faded glass that's in front of him, and a voice changer. And then on cue, while Higuchi is watching the program, after Namikawa warns him about the program and about the leak about somebody being Kira, Higuchi reveals that Higuchi is going to see Matsura's face after they knock down the painted glass, and since Matsura's real name hasn't been made public to Higuchi yet, he's most likely going to try desperately to actually get a hold of Matsura's real name. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. So meanwhile Namikawa has met with the 2 other men in the group, Mogi and Shimura. and asks and between the three of them, they accurately deduce that Higuchi is Kira. As Light, pretending to be L, calls up Namikawa and asks for his help. And while Light temporarily slips up and reveals that he also knows the identity that Higuchi is Kira, and Namikawa remarks about the fact that even L can be fooled. Namikawa basically decides to go along with it and even reveals the contents of the phone call to the other two people in the room, pointing out that they were interested anyway, and that they might as well know, and he might as well come clean now. So basically, L tells him that if Namikawa both A gets Higuchi to watch the Sakura TV broadcast, and B prevents the rest of the Yotsuba group from interfering, that they will prosecute none of them save for Higuchi, who is Kira. And Namikawa, understandably, takes this deal and plays his part beautifully. So Higuchi's sitting alone at home on the couch, contemplating about how once he gets Misa to marry him, he will finally have everything he wants, and then he'll be able to basically kill anybody at any time whenever he wants, and will be able to make his way up to the CEO of Yotsuba. And it's exactly at this point that Namikawa calls him up and tells him the bad news, and from there the plan goes off without a hitch. Matsuda appears on TV with the faded glass so that Higuchi can't see his face, and Higuchi eventually begins to realize that it's somebody who knows a little bit too much about what they're talking about, and begins to panic. And right on cue, the pane glass that's covering Matsuda's face falls away, and they cut to commercial. But not before Higuchi realizes that it's in fact Misa Mane's former manager, and is a little confused as to why he's alive, pointing out that not only did he see Matsura fall off of the balcony, but he also wrote Matsura's fake name into the death note for good measure to make sure he was dead. So the fact that Matsura is still alive is throwing him for a complete loop. And for good reason. He quickly deduces that Matsura in fact used a fake name, which we know is fact, and quickly realizes that he needs to get Matsura's real name before he actually leaks the information about Kira to the public. And at first he calls Misa, since she most likely saw his name. But Misa, who is with the task force, hangs up on him, and he realizes he needs to find another way to stop the information from getting out. So he calls Mogi, who points out that the broadcast is actually pretty minor, and that the only one who could really stop it is Kira, pointing out that they can't really stop it, since that would make them look really, really suspicious. So, and Matsura and sure enough, Matsura is still talking, and Higuchi realizes that he's in a bad situation. If Matsura reveals the information about Kira before he can stop him, then he's going to look very bad. And also, he quickly realizes that he can't say anything else to the other Yotsuba members, or that will reveal that he's Kira. So, what he does instead is he calls up Mogi, who reveals that Misa is on holiday, which is a blatant lie. And that basically everybody's on holiday, and that if they want to actually get information about him, he should call the main office at Yoshida Productions, which Higuchi immediately does. But the president reveals that he doesn't actually know Matsura's real name, and volunteers to tell him where the keys are, so that he can actually get into the employee records, so he can actually find out who Matsura really is. And Higuchi basically takes the bait hook, line, and sinker. He leaves in one of his cars that have been bugged, and proceeds to go to the office while Weddy tails after him on her motorcycle. And while he's doing this, he realizes that he needs to stop this before he loses everything, and then starts laughing to himself, and is basically goes completely deranged at this point. He's basically gone mad with power, and he quickly realizes that if he wants to keep his power, he has to stop Matsura quickly. So, yeah. Overall, this episode is just L figuring out a great way to actually stop Higuchi from transferring his power to somebody else. And it is definitely a good idea on paper. Because it's definitely gonna work. In a way, they basically set up a situation where Higuchi has to reveal how he kills people, and he also needs to make sure that, and they also have a way to keep him from spreading his power, so that they can actually keep an eye on him. So basically Higuchi's in a catch-22 situation. He can't kill Matsura, and so he's basically in a situation where he has to figure out how Matsura can actually be alive and figure out his real name. But in order to do that, he basically played right into L's hands, and now L is going to be able to get all the information he needs to put Higuchi away forever. So yeah, basically overall, L just trapped Higuchi in a catch-22 situation, and Higuchi has no way of actually escaping the Kira Task Force anymore now. He's stuck. He can't win. He can't win this situation. He's going to lose now. So, yeah, that's my review of Death Note. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps you out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks on my way saying thanks. So be sure to check this out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!